Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the GotchSEO show. This episode, I'm sitting down with Nathan Gotch to talk about how he built his SEO agency and personal brand up. So if you don't know Nathan already, go ahead and Google any SEO term ever and you're probably gonna see his blog coming up. That's GotchSEO.com. He's a very well-known guy in our space. He has a pretty damn popular blog. His most popular blog post has, I think, over 1,000 comments, which is pretty crazy. So very interesting guy. What I'm interested in talking about with him today is how he built up his agency, how he got started. And he's going to cover so many cool tips, guys, like his most effective way of bringing in clients, why he's completely moved away from PBNs today, and his real thought on that, which is complete opposite of mine and many of you listening. So it's very interesting to hear their different opinion there. We're going to talk about his favorite books, how he's growing his business, how he's diversifying it, all sorts of stuff there. It's a very interesting episode. There's a whole lot of nuggets in here, so I really hope you enjoy it. So let's get into it. Hope you enjoy the episode. Nathan, hey man, thank you for joining me on the show today. It's very cool to have you here.
Thanks, man. I'm really happy to be here.
So to start with the absolute basics, as always, can you give like a little brief introduction as to who you are and what it is you do?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Nathan Gotch, and I'm the founder of GotchSEO. And GotchSEO does a variety of things, do full service SEO, white label services for other SEO agencies, and we have some SEO training courses as well. And so my company's changed a lot through the years. I first started with just purely clients, and I did that for probably about 3 years. And now it's very hard to transition away from clients because it's, you're getting that nice monthly revenue. But I have done that well, and I am starting to, it's probably about, I'd say probably 40% of our revenue is from clients, and all the rest is white label services and SEO training. So
very nice. With the transition, do you mean you're getting rid of clients or just adding new revenue sources?
So a little bit of both. So
okay.
one way we transitioned was to get rid of all low paying clients. So any client paying below $1,000, we got rid of them. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just completely got rid of them, not in a mean way. We just, obviously let them know that we can no longer work with them just because our time constraints. And the other thing, obviously, is that we've added other revenue streams, so we feel comfortable doing that. If clients were my only revenue stream, then obviously I wouldn't be so willing to let them go.
For sure. Okay, so you said you started this back in 2011?
Yeah, that's when I first got into SEO, yeah.
Very cool. What were you doing before that?
Well, I was in college in 2011. I was in my senior year of college. Yeah.
Nice.
So I was doing that, and I started, just like so many other people who try to make money online, I got into this course. I think it was called Web Colleagues, and trust me, you won't find it. It was so bad. But back then, when I had no knowledge of what I was doing, it seemed pretty cool, and I was like, well, I can maybe do something here. So
it was a Kickstarter less than.
Yeah, it was. And one of the recommendations to make money online was to start doing paid surveys. And so that was the first thing I did online to try to make money, and it was seriously horrible. I would do like 100 surveys and make like $10, and it would take me like 2 days to make $10. I'm like, this probably is not going to work. So
it's very funny.
Yeah, so I started with that, and then eventually they had another part in the course where they said, well, you should start your own blog. And I was like, okay. So at the time I was playing baseball for my college, and I was like, well, I might as well start a baseball blog. And it ended up being actually a baseball pitching blog because I was a pitcher. And that was really like my experiment for
that's
SEO.
Cool.
So that's really what got me into it. And I actually ended up selling that website last year.
Oh, wow. So it worked out quite well then.
Yeah, it did. So I was really happy about that. And but I started that site. Then I started a cardio training website. And then I started a Bowflex reviews website, then a TRX reviews website, just all these different sites that it was weirdly, I didn't really care about making money at the time. I was really just trying to get better at SEO because I knew I could monetize that later.
Got it.
And so And I was actually trying to build up kind of a portfolio so that I could get clients. So that's where it all kind of started.
Interesting. I was gonna ask that. When did you decide, like, I'm gonna like go the client route instead and sign myself away to all these clients? That's what a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, so I got my first dose of a client. I want to say it was in 2000. Yeah, it was probably 2012, 2013. And this guy, I found him on Craigslist. I just started looking stuff up like everyone else does. So I went on Craigslist and looked to see if anyone needed SEO. And I found this guy in Los Angeles, and he paid me $100 a month
Nice.
to do SEO. And so obviously in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, right. But at the time I did it because I just wanted to get into the industry. And this guy was like so crazy and I couldn't even handle it. Because anyone who pays $100 a month, they're really, they can't afford it.
Yeah,
So,
I saw someone AdWords management for $50 a month.
yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, that was my first, and that didn't go very well because I had no systems, really nothing going very well. No way to handle clients, no way to properly fulfill them. Just so many, pretty much everything was wrong. So,
That's funny.
and then after I graduated college, I was working as like a loss prevention security person in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you know much about like my story, I guess, but I would literally wake up at 4:30 in the morning, drive to Beverly Hills, work on SEO stuff from 6 a.m. all the way until 10 a.m., go to work, then I'd walk back to Starbucks at lunch, and I'd work for another hour, and then I'd go back to this terrible job. And then from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I'd do SEO again. And
That's
I
very cool.
literally, and I would stay in Beverly Hills because the traffic was so awful. So I would just stay there until traffic died down, and then I'd drive home, and I'd get home at like 10, and I'd do it again. And I did this for over a year, just like this crazy schedule.
It's crazy.
But the whole time I was getting a lot better at SEO. And so that's really,
You enjoyed it, I guess?
oh yeah, of course. Yeah. That's the only reason why I could do that.
Yeah.
And obviously, I didn't really like the position that I was in. So that's always a pretty good driving force when it's an intrinsic value. So that's really how it started. And then, I decided to quit my job there, and I had no clients at the time. I still had my niche sites, but obviously, that's sketchy. So I quit my job and packed my stuff up and drove to St. Louis to be with my current wife. And so her parents were so nice to let me stay in their house for a month. And within a month, I went from $0 to about $5,000 a month.
Wow, that's very cool.
And then within a year, I got well over six figures. So, and that's all from client work. And I can tell you how I got those clients and stuff like that if you want, but
I'll be interested in the first like 5,000. How did you get to that?
So the first couple clients I got were from Craigslist. And so I'd wake up every day and I'd send out tons of just job postings in the gig section. And so I would just respond to every single thing. And I was testing different subject lines and different email templates. And one of the clients I got was actually another SEO agency, and he was outsourcing his work to me. And so that obviously brought me a lot of clients, and that was pretty nice in the beginning. And so I was able to move out of my at the time girlfriend's parents' house, and
It's a very cool
pretty
story.
much started my agency then. So, but the Craigslist clients were definitely some of the worst that I had.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but over time, I started with just doing like mass posting on Craigslist. That was my one tactic. But at the same time, I started GotchSEO. And so I started building up GotchSEO and using a tactic that maybe some people use, but some people don't. But I realized, what's a better way for a client to see how good I am at SEO than to rank in cities for
Makes sense.
St. Louis SEO company, Atlanta SEO, things like that. And so I started with St. Louis SEO, and that was like the game changer. And
Really?
that's really, yeah. So that's when I really started to get a lot of clients, was from that.
Interesting. I've had
Yeah.
mixed opinions on that. Some people say they get a lot of clients from it. Some people say that they don't seem to get as many as you'd expect because, for whatever reason, maybe the searches or other SEOs check in the keywords and stuff.
Yeah, I think the search volume is a little inflated because other SEOs are trying to check their rankings in Google. So I think that definitely does happen, but there's no doubt that I got those clients from
That's
those
very cool.
specific search terms.
Is there certain,
So
like obviously rank it, but is there certain lessons you learned from doing that, like how to structure the landing page or how to structure the offer for when they first come in?
yeah, so I mean, I've changed the structure of Gotch SEO so many times. Like in the beginning, I just focused on my homepage because I didn't really have a vision of what I was doing. I was just like, I'm just going to try to get as many clients as I can. So the homepage was optimized for St. Louis SEO or St. Louis SEO agency, and that worked well for a long time. And then I transitioned that page. Actually, I transitioned it to a page, just a pure landing page, and it was more just kind of like a generic, like, hey, we're really good at this, so why don't you hire us? My really bad copywriting skills at the time, so that was one thing, and that's kind of the strategy I've taken for a while. So like if you go and look at Atlanta SEO, you'll see I have like these really weird articles, or like 7 scams that Atlanta SEO companies will try to tell you, or something like that. Like just, all kinds of stuff, and just to really attract more clicks. And because obviously those search terms are very competitive. So, I mean, you're no other search term you up against pure SEOs. So
Yeah, for sure.
so that is the one thing. But regardless, if you're on the first page, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a good company. It just means that you know how to rank, and that's pretty important for clients. So that
Absolutely.
was really the objective.
And so they land on the page, they search for like Atlanta SEO, they land on the page of the 7 scams that SEOs typically do. How do you get them on the phone or into the sales process? Is it just like a free consultation, or what's the offer?
Yeah, so I didn't really have a ton of lead magnets at the time. Really, my main sales position was that I'm ranking better than everyone. So it
Fair
was, and so they would either just call me directly because I had a local St. Louis business number, or they would just go through my lead form, which would qualify them. So I'd put what's your average monthly budget and stuff like that. And so I always had a smaller option, but then if they put, my budget's between $2,000 to $5,000, then I can invest more time in trying to sell that client. So it helps in the initial stages because I've had a lot of experience with low-paying clients, not positive experiences. So, and I'm sure many people listening have as well. So.
I'd be curious then, because I'm the same, like some small clients that awful to deal with. Is there a certain sort of size you find it changes massively and they become easier to work with?
Yes, it changes. Like I have high-paying clients that are still pretty rough to work with sometimes, but they're better because they're bad for different reasons. So low-paying clients are bad because they don't even give you a chance to do your magic or do your work. They're just so concerned every month that they're not growing, when obviously even at like back then around 2012 to 2013, it was a joke how easy it was to rank.
Yeah.
Like I could literally just throw up a PBN, and with 3 links I could rank for pretty much anything. I mean, it was insane.
Full exact match, even then you could do that.
Yeah, it was insane. And so, I'd be ranking clients within 2 to 3 months, and things are so different now. Like links are taking longer to see the impact. New websites literally don't move at all. And so, over time I started to see this. And so one of the policies I implemented was I'm not going to work with startups or brand new websites, because usually they're the most concerned about the campaign because they're just burning cash, like crazy, and they want to see results fast, but you can't see results fast. It's just not possible unless you're doing like hardcore spam, which you can, but then obviously, over time that's not going to do very well. So
Sure.
Um, yeah, so it's, there's so many things I could get into with these low paying clients, but one of them is that, they just, if they're low paying, they probably really can't afford the service. And so you're always going to be dealing with them. And if it's bad in the beginning, it only gets worse. It never gets
Absolutely,
better.
yeah.
So, I have a client right now, a really big supplement company here in St. Louis, and they pay about $4,000 a month, and you know, a little, it gets a little aggressive at times, just because that's kind of like the way they operate. They're kind of like, in your face.
Yeah.
But they're not mad at me because of performance or because of how long it's taking. They get mad like if I don't go down to the office to see them or something like that. So
That's better though. It's not like
yeah. So it's a
crying it's
different.
been 2 weeks and you haven't got any clients yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that type of thing, and so it's definitely different in that way.
Okay. I'm curious then, what's the, like you said back then, it was like PBNs, like really easy rankings. What's the difference between ranking back then for you and today?
Well, I've really gone away from PBNs. I mean, I started that transition about 2 years ago. I would
Okay.
say, where are we in? Yeah, or 2017. Yeah, about 2 years ago. Just because just so sick of the management of PBNs. Just the
Got
whole
it, yeah.
process, is just so extensive now at this point that we just didn't see that it was worth it to put that much time into PBNs, and we could just go out and do outreach and acquire links that are we don't have to worry about our sites going down or these sites getting hacked or
For sure, it gets tedious.
yeah, it gets very tedious. And especially, at the time in around 2015, our network was probably like 150 sites. And so it was just getting a little insane. And especially because we had like specific networks for certain clients, and it was just like, it was crazy. And then, when links fall off, if it's a really good PBN link and a link falls off and the client's rankings drop, you're like, oh, great. And then you have to explain that to the client. You're like, well, just wait because we got to reacquire that link. It's just a very vicious cycle. And we just kind of saw over time that it wasn't going to be sustainable. So we just started moving to a more, white hat approach. But it's really more content driven. So kind of like GotchSEO, you'll see, obviously my articles are super long,
Huge,
five
yeah.
to 7,000 word monsters. And obviously we don't necessarily go that in depth for the clients because that's hard to do. But that is kind of the approach we do take now.
Even for like a local plumbing company example, are you throwing in like 1,000, 2,000 words on the page?
Yep,
Cool.
we are. And also, we're not really working with local clients anymore. So
Yeah.
that is one thing. But like, for example, we have a heating and cooling company here in St. Louis, and we do use the content driven strategy for them. So really the objective for a local company, if we're doing that strategy, is just to build the authority of the site overall and make it so strong that it's just going to outrank everything. And so, and you can see that effect, on the national level when you look at, Wikipedia and WebMD and all these
Sure.
monster websites. They throw up a keyword targeted article and they rank without any links. So that's kind of the approach that we do take. And obviously on the local level, it's a lot easier because the sites are so weak in many cases. So that is kind of the strategy.
For sure. And the question I get when I say that, I'm a big fan of the same thing. I still use PBNs, but I'm a big fan of like a content approach as well.
Yeah.
And people always ask, how do you write so much content for a local site, like a local business or something like that? It's quite difficult sometimes to think of like thousands of words to write.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not easy for a local company, but basically when we create the blog content, we're keeping it a little more broad. So it's not necessarily going to be, geo-targeted type of content. So
Okay.
an example for like an HVAC company might be, how to keep your home cooler in the summer or something like that. Something that is still very related to what they're doing, but it's not geo-targeted in that way. So, and really the goal is, create a really great piece of content or an infographic or an expert roundup or something like that. And then we drive links to that page, which links out to their service pages.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's really the goal, is that that content asset can drive a lot of links. So that's really, and it obviously it works a lot of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work, and we have to create a new piece of content. But over time, I think it's pretty hard to beat. So
that makes sense. I'm curious, how did you transition from setting up like basic landers and ranking for SEO terms to having like these monster posts? Like I'm seeing like over 1,000 comments on some of your posts, man. It's very cool.
Yeah, man, I don't know. It just kind of took off, really. Like over time, I answer every single blog comment. So that's one thing is, I have maybe 1,100 blog comments on that backlinks article, but about 550 are from me. So,
Still.
that's one thing to consider. But one tactic I do use, which I don't think I've ever shared it on my blog. I may have shared it inside GotchSEO Academy, but I sticky my article that has the most blog comments.
Interesting.
And so the reason for that is because when someone lands on my blog page, I want them to see that immediate social proof.
Yeah, just welcome me.
Yeah, exactly. And so you'll notice on my blog, it's not by accident that I have that article sticking. So, and it's hard to quantify whether that drives more blog comments or not, but I think it does personally, because
I'd be guessing, but I think so too.
Yeah. So, because when you see 1,000 blog comments, you probably are much more willing to comment on a blog post because other people have. So it's just the nature of social proof. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything too crazy. Usually when I finish an article, I just say, hey, if you have any questions, just leave a blog comment. So
I think it's the length of the content, how much effort you put into it as well.
Yeah. So much effort. Yeah. And I create and write all the content for GotchSEO. So I've never outsourced that. I outsourced literally almost everything in my business, but that's the one thing that I don't.
What about like research or anything? Like 100% you?
Research for the content?
Yeah.
Yep. That's all me.
Adding images, like everything.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, I could probably outsource those elements, but it's just kind of, I enjoyed that process of creating content. And I kind of have like there's a method to the madness. It's not just this, I'm just in my room, just typing like crazy. There's kind of like a strategy. So.
Okay. So how did you start? Like, did you just start a blog on it to help people out or to add some more content to the site? Like, how did that all start off?
Well, the initial purpose of the blog was just to kind of build my authority so that I could get more clients. So that was really what I was trying to do. And then obviously over time, I really didn't start going too hardcore SEO or marketing on the blog until probably about 2 years ago. And so all that time before, like if I showed you my analytics chart, it's like super flat. And then you'll see the point when I started really trying, and now it's just like
it's awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah. So I started targeting more, SEO based terms. So like backlinks, I'm in the top 5 for backlinks, and anchor text and stuff like that. I'm sure many people who watch you probably see my anchor text article, and I know Matt Diggity has a really good take on anchor text. So, but yeah, those are all.
Yeah, I've definitely seen articles myself.
Yeah, so that's really where I started focusing. I started driving links to those content. I got a lot of natural links as well, and so that's helped a lot.
Okay, and what about now? Like, I know nowadays you have like the white label services, you have the products and everything like that. Was that just a natural occurrence of because you put yourself out there with the blog content that you attracted SEOs and different types of people, and you just sold what they wanted, basically?
That's exactly how it is. That's kind of really always been my strategy. I make things when I see kind of a void for it. And so I saw that there really are, and I will tell you, I have probably spent, oh my gosh, so much money on link building vendors. Like, I can't even tell you, it's insane. Like, probably for about 3 years, I used to buy links from Black Hat World, and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with these different people on Black Hat World. And oh my gosh, it was so, like, 80% of the time, they don't communicate. The links are not what you expect. And then, there's all these problems that come up. And so
Sure.
that was one of the really pain points that I saw. I'm like, man, there are really no reliable link building companies or companies that can just have good customer service and acquire links for you. And so I was like, I'm just going to start doing this. I'm going to start selling links because I know that I can at least have good customer service and get good links. So I started the blogger outreach service last year, and I grew that from nothing to it's significant now. And of course I didn't expect it to be like that because I saw it all my clients. So I'm like, oh, it'd be nice if I got a little side income from this. And then it turned into something far larger. And it's kind of unfair because I already have so much traffic going to my site. So it doesn't take much for me to kind of start adding new revenue streams in that way.
Absolutely.
But I'm always looking for ways to diversify my income because I really do not like being reliant on a single client or a single type of revenue. So I'm always looking for new ways to change that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I interviewed someone last week's episode, and they had an agency back in 2000, I don't know, a few years ago, and they lost every single one of their clients because they were using like a public PBN sort of thing, and just tanked. The whole thing got de-indexed, and every single one of their clients overnight almost went bankrupt, which is insane.
My God.
Yeah, very interesting story.
Yeah.
So I totally understand like why you want to diversify things.
Yeah, and that was another reason why I went away from PBNs, because the risk when you have clients and they're paying you a ton of money, that risk of getting penalized, oh my gosh, is way too scary. Because I've actually had it happen. I've had clients get penalized because of us using PBNs.
Really?
So yeah, so it's not fun to have to explain that to a client.
How did that go down? Like, did they know you were doing gray hat strategies?
Yeah, I mean they were okay with whatever we were doing, but obviously, most of these businesses have no clue what SEO is. So
Sure.
if you tell them you're doing PBNs and you tell them you're doing outreach, it means the same thing to them. They don't know the difference. So,
Yeah.
But they really just care about results. That's all they really care about.
Fair
So
enough.
what's funny is one of the companies that we got penalized because of our work, we were driving a ton of results for them. And so when they got hit, and it was bad. I think it was the last big PBN update, which is probably about 2 years ago, I want to say. But it nailed. Do you know Niche Pursuits with Spencer? Yeah. So when he got nailed, that was about the time we got nailed as well.
Okay.
So it was
Crazy
and
times.
he wrote this. Yeah. So, but yeah, that client, I just told him, I'm like, yeah. Looks like you got hit with the penalty. So I'm always super transparent. So I'm just like, yeah, looks like you got hit with the penalty. It's probably because of our links. So we're just going to remove the links and then we'll work to get it fixed. And that's exactly what we did. And everything was fine. So, and we didn't even lose the client.
That's very cool.
So yeah. And so as long as you're transparent and, their business doesn't get devastated, usually okay. So, and of course, I've always made it a rule to never 100% rely on PBN links. So I've never truly been impacted, like completely flatlined from using PBNs, because I always diversify outside of them too. So.
Okay, what sort of diversity? Like what sort of other links?
Well, we would always combine the PBNs with outreach as well. And so I have a PBNs article it's like, are PBNs worth it, on my blog? And I show a chart that has basically it's like 80-20. So, or actually maybe I think it's 95% to 5%, but a small percentage of your links can be PBN links because those are considered like your high risk investments, just like you would a stock market portfolio or your retirement portfolio.
Sure.
And then the others you'd want to have more kind of safe bets. And so that's kind of the strategy we've taken, is just to avoid getting hit or devastated. So at least, if 5% you have 5% PBN links in your profile, and let's say half of them get annihilated, well, that's only 2.5% of your overall link profile. And so,
man. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have like a lot of PBN guys watching this. So for anyone who wants to diversify a little bit and get a little like outreach links, you probably have loads of articles or anything, but do you have any tips ready for someone that's looking to transition right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you're paying for PBN links, if you don't want to put in the effort, you could obviously just use our blogger outreach service, which is exactly what that does.
Fair enough.
But if you're going to, take the manual route, obviously you're going to have to get a huge list of prospects in your industry. And so, I'm not going to get too deep into that. It's pretty simple. You just do, SEO plus guest post, or SEO plus write for us, or SEO plus be a contributor, and just do those search queries in Google and get as many prospects as possible. And then you have to qualify those prospects, make sure they're not terrible websites. And so usually I would filter them based on, their authority. So whether it's domain authority or TrustFlow or the domain rating from Ahrefs. And then you have to outreach to them and see if you can get an article placed. So, and then obviously, this process it takes a long time, and you gotta, you're only going to get on a good day, 20 to 30% response rate. And so from that percentage, then you got to actually write the content, and then, this process goes on and on. So,
I presume you outsource the whole thing. You're not sitting there writing 200 emails a day or whatever.
No. No. And that's actually what's pretty interesting is the blogger outreach service I have. And this is crazy to say, but I probably only spend 30 minutes a month on that service.
Really?
Yeah. And it's multiple six-figure service. So
that's very cool.
And I have a team of about, I think 9 people or so, and they're all online now. So I had 2 in-house employees for 2 years. And one of them was my wife, and now she's full-time on her fashion blog. So she's doing her thing over there. And then the other one was my best friend from college, and he moved on to a different agency. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hire any more employees. I'm just going to go pure, 4-hour work week style and just get, all online assistants and stuff like that. So, and that's been amazing.
That's awesome. So would you recommend someone, if they're an agency? I know you said that ranking for the SEO terms is great for getting some clients. Would you recommend they start blogging like you did and try and build up their expertise and build a little bit of a following as well?
Yeah, I definitely. And especially if you know how to do SEO and you have the results, then you should be sharing that information and showing that you know how to do it, because that's really half the sales battle is proving to people that you actually know what you're doing. So
I bet. Yeah. So I imagine if you show the content, especially with the deliberate sticky, right? Like the 1,000+ comments, when you're on the phone with a client, they've already seen that before you even speak to them.
Exactly. Yep. It's all about what's happening before you even talk to them. So, if you don't have any proof of what you're doing and they call you up and you're like, well, I'm really good at what I do, just trust me, they're going to be like, well, I don't know. There's always going to be skeptical unless you have, that proof to back it up. So I definitely recommend blogging it up and showing, that you can do it and trying to build up your authority. And it takes a long time.
For sure, yeah.
It really does. So, but it's worth it. And I've actually gotten clients from Quora as well. So that's another thing. So just from answering questions on there and showing that I'm an authority, I've actually gotten clients from that.
Interesting. So, I had someone else on the show actually say the exact same thing. He said, pretty decent source if you're willing to answer questions and go in depth. That's what I had.
And it's a lot more saturated now.
Okay.
But it definitely, if you're willing to put in the effort, you could probably land some clients there. So
okay, so say someone's going to go the content approach, they're going to start writing these blog posts. Do they just fire out loads of articles, or is do you structure and think about how they're going to do it?
Oh yeah, dude, don't do that. Yeah, don't fire out a lot of articles. That's the best. Quality over quantity, 100%. So you'll see on GotchSEO, I think I only have a little over 30 published articles, and so you'll see even Brian from Backlinko, another person. He has barely any articles published.
Perfect example, yeah.
Yeah, and so he's driving a ton of traffic. So that quantity approach, it may work for New York Times, but it's not going to work for a small time blogger. So, and it doesn't make sense to do it anyway, because if you're just writing your own content, you're not going to be able to produce great content that's going to drive social shares or links.
Absolutely.
Every single day or something like that. It's not possible. So
focus
on quality.
You take, from what I can see on your blog, and I try to do some similar stuff as well, is creating these massive guides, I guess. like how to build backlinks in 2017, like how to become an SEO expert. Like you've got these huge guides that cover like a really quite a small topic, but something you can really expand on a lot.
Yeah, I mean it's really basic. I mean, I'm really just finding keywords that have decent search volume. Competition is always tough in the SEO space, so
Yeah.
I'm willing to take that on. But basically, I have this whole process of figuring out whether a keyword's worth going after or not. And so one of the things I look at is word count of the competitors. So I get an average word count of the top 10. And if the average word count is, 1,200 words, then I try to create something that's 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000. So I really try to go way beyond anything that's currently ranking. And obviously, there's much more to that whole process, but obviously, word count is super important because length does imply strength in Google. So, and actually for sales as well. So, with sales copy, longer sales copy tends to perform
For
pretty
sure.
well.
And for a building authority, I had people comment on like my PBN guide, just like, this looks really good. Like 2 minutes after I posted it, like there's no way they read it already.
I know, of course not. Yeah. That happens all the time. I'll publish a new article and there's like within a second someone's commenting. I'm like, you didn't read it. Like you definitely.
There's no way.
So yeah.
Cool, man. So I'd be curious. You've been in the agency business a long time. You have clients still now. Is there any sort of learning curves or big difficulties that you overcome during the process, and maybe like a top 3 like big mistakes that you made that you overcome along the way?
Gosh, I should have prepared for this one because I have so many. My gosh, let me think of one. Well, I've had so many experiences because I've worked with employees. I've had employees working with me, so that was a big learning curve there because when you have employees coming in every single day to work, you need to have them doing something. And so the thing that's really challenging is, I'm very good at what I need to do, but when I have to think about what other people need to do, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do they need to do? I don't know what they need to do. And so that was a huge learning curve trying to figure that out. But I think I've figured that out pretty well. I've been creating, standard operating procedures for a long time.
Very cool.
SOPs, and sometimes those are text-based and other times it's actually me like over-the-shoulder video showing, and I literally take that video and give it to my VA. She watches it and then boom, she gets it done. And so it's really nice. And worst case scenario, which I really hope doesn't happen because I love my VA, if she were to stop working for me, I could give that video to another VA and just seamlessly transition constantly. So because I have that.
Yeah, with building the real team, are you hiring people that know SEO, or are you training them up and like using the SOPs?
I'm basically just giving different pieces of SEO to different people.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah.
So you have like content people, you have outreach people, and whatnot.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
So and my VA, she does really everything. I mean, she handles basically the whole white label services division, and then she also does some of the client stuff. So like she knows how to do competitor analysis, based on how we like to do it.
And that's so that's SAP.
Yep. Just 100%. She follows the video, gets it done. And I mean, really, competitor analysis that we do is really just like getting averages of metrics and putting them into a sheet. So it's not like that complicated, but obviously, you have to like export a bunch of results and put them into Ahrefs. So there can be a little bit of complexity if you're not technically savvy.
Yeah.
So
was that a big, like when you first started hiring people, was that like a big learning curve to suddenly start implementing the systems like initially where you just kind of like, hey, can you do this for me? And just like hoping they could figure it out.
Yeah. Well, like I tried so many different approaches. Like when I first started, I wanted to be very hands off because I don't like when someone's breathing down my shoulder. So
for sure.
I'd rather just try to let them work it out. And so I would just be like, hey, I need you to do blank. And then they do it, but then I'd see how they did it. And then obviously I was like, that's not really like what I needed you to do. Or it's just, when there's not clear structure and clear guidance, it's very challenging for people to perform well. And especially if they're not, driven, like, self-driven, like you, for example, you started your podcast, you're doing your own thing. You don't need someone to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
You're just doing it. And so, unfortunately, a lot of employees don't have that same mindset. They need you to tell them what to do every single day. And
Yeah, it's a
so,
shift, isn't it, to think about having to tell them.
yeah, and to you, it makes sense. Like you just understand, like I need to get up in the morning and I need to plan my day and I need to do this stuff. But for some people, that's actually not. It's not that straightforward, believe it or not. And so you have to literally change like your thinking to understand that. And so it's pretty crazy. But the one thing that helped a lot was I read the E Myth, and when I
I
read
love the
that
book.
book,
Yeah.
it literally changed my entire mindset, and that was like the game changer. And then I also have Built to Sell as well, and that's a very similar kind of a similar book, but it's basically stories like this agency owner who's super stressed out and has all these clients, and he has no systems, and like over time he starts to develop systems, then he sells his agency for several $1,000,000 or something like that.
It's cool.
But it's
How do you
very
deliver
similar.
them? Like, do you have like a tool or anything you use to create the SOPs, or is it just like Word
Just
documents and whatnot?
Dropbox.
A Dropbox, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, well, I do have Sweet Process as well. I don't know if you've used that before.
I use Process Street, similar idea, I think.
I've used Process Street, but I kind of like the Sweet Process a little bit better because you can download like PDFs and stuff like that. I don't know if Process Street can do that now. I'm sure they can, but yeah. So I use Sweet Process, and then if it's just video, I just put it into a Dropbox folder for that particular project, and then just you can get a link from Dropbox and send it to the VA, and then they can just watch it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So,
What about the other two big mistakes slash lessons? Putting you on the spot.
yeah, let me think about it. Obviously, I explained the PBN one earlier, so that was one that kind of showed me don't rely on stuff too much. Man, mistakes. What are the mistakes? Well, I don't know if this is a mistake, but I fired a lot of clients, so I don't know what the repercussions of that have been. So
Interesting.
I'm very yeah. So I'm very willing to fire a client if they're like making me stay up at night, or they make my stomach turn or something like
That's
that. If
coming
they're
from a
just
place
like
of abundance, though, because you can get
Yeah.
more.
exactly. So, but even believe it or not, even in the beginning when I didn't have abundance, I would still fire clients. Like I fired this crazy client because I literally she would email me at like 12 o'clock at night and expect me to respond. And I'd be like, why would I respond? Like, are you serious? So just like, insane expectations. And you can just tell, like certain clients, they're not going to change. They're going to be that way forever, no matter what you do. And so even when you get them results and they're still criticizing you, you're going to be in for a long, a long battle. So
For sure, yeah. I don't think
so
that's a
I won't-
mistake. It's a good thing to fire them.
yeah, and so I am very willing to fire clients. I am not afraid to, and I do it. I've done it many, many times, and believe it or not, it's the best thing that you could ever do. If you have a client that's taking up 80% of your time, because that's usually what happens. Bad clients
And it makes
end
you
up,
miserable, right?
yeah, it does. It really does, and I didn't get into business to be miserable.
Yeah.
So I got into business to have a little bit more freedom and not have a boss, quote unquote, but with client work, you have like 20 bosses or 30 bosses. So
Yeah.
that's what's kind of interesting about it. But that's one reason why I've transitioned away from it. And I try to only work with, bigger clients who I feel like, kind of get it. So.
For sure. Okay, a few last questions to like wrap it up.
Sure.
Favorite, not favorite, what free tools that you love to use that you use like regular in your business?
Oh, free tools. Man, I feel like all the tools I use are paid.
Oh, sorry, free. Like
Yeah. Oh, three. I thought you said three. Okay. Three tools. Well, Google Drive, obviously, which
sure.
is free.
Yep.
Google Drive, Ahrefs would be the second, definitely. I actually use that above SEMrush at this point because I think their organic, checking organic keywords is equivalent of SEMrush at this point.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then the third tool, and let me think about that. Well, this isn't really a tool, but it's more a service, bench.co, for my bookkeeping. That
Okay.
was monumental to use that. So before I was doing all my bookkeeping, and that was obviously not very fun.
Yeah,
So
I can think of better ways to spend your time.
yeah, exactly. So as soon as I started using them last year, man, that's been the best investment I've made. Seriously, because I've saved so much time, and they're really good. I mean, obviously, people have had bad experiences with them, just like any other thing. But for me personally, it's worked well for me. So, um, not a tool, but more of a service. So,
Okay. And okay, another question then. What book would you say has had the biggest impact on you?
oh man, um, believe it or not, probably the Millionaire Fast Lane from
I like it. I
MJ.
thought it was a cool book.
Yeah, so that it's if you're looking for like actionable advice for business, that's not the book you go for. But that book teaches you the right mindset, for sure, of what you need. And then obviously, I have so many books. Like I have all these books right over here. The E Myth is definitely up there.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
and actually, it's so cliche, but the 4 Hour Work Week, the principles taught in that are so valuable that
I
you
reread
have to.
it last year and like taken
Yeah,
some notes and changed some things because it's really good ideas in there.
yeah. I have like a man crush on Tim Ferriss, so I have all of his books. So I think he thinks about things in a really good way. It's really trying to make your life super efficient, and I think that's a good thing to do because I've been in that trap where I've been working 13 to 15 hours thinking that's going to change things, and it doesn't. So um, focusing on the big impact activities is a big thing.
For sure. Okay, so another question. Everyone loves this one. So if you were to lose everything, you had to start over, all that sort of typical thing, um, what would you do? Would you go for clients again, or what would your business be?
Would I still have my SEO skills that I have now?
You can keep your skills.
Okay. Can I keep the business skills I've developed over time as well?
Yeah, just say that some reason Google hated you for some reason and like shut you down and screwed you over and you had to
Uh,
start over.
I'd probably go right into client work because that's the fastest way to get revenue.
I agree.
And so, and client work has actually been so nice because I've been able to use that capital to invest into other things that have actually allowed me to diversify. So, that's definitely the way I'd probably go. And I would do probably the same exact thing that I did. I would start to diversify as soon as I could. So, but if that would definitely be the first thing I'd do for sure.
Okay. How do you come
Yeah.
up with, by the way, what you're going to diversify into? Is that just a matter of looking at who your audience is?
Yeah, it does. You have to find what problems you're seeing in the industry, and the only way to do that is if you're deep in the industry. And
Yeah.
so, fortunately for me, I have so much data from my blog. Like I can just grab data from surveys. I can grab data from what people are searching on my actual site. I can obviously get information from blog comments, and so I can really start to see. And obviously, a lot of people email me, and so I can kind
I
of just
bet.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just get to see what problems there are, and obviously they're not always so in your face, and you got to kind of dig for them. But sometimes just thinking about what you're struggling with is a good solution too.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Especially when you're
yeah,
deep in the industry, like you're saying.
yeah, exactly. So, and there's so many moving parts in SEO, so there are a lot of things that can be optimized for agencies or for other people. So
Absolutely. Okay, here's a question
yeah.
I love to ask people. It's really interesting to see the different answers. Um, you're clearly doing well today. Like you have like the outreach thing, the white label services, multiple 6 figures. You said is on top of everything else. What
Yeah.
is your motivation today to like get up in the morning and crush it and work hard and keep doing this?
Well, I think it's probably fear more than anything. I just am so
Interesting.
afraid to not have enough money to support my wife or support my future family. So I really think about that a lot. And I grew up. I didn't have much money when I grew up. Like when I came to St. Louis, I had probably $100 in my bank account. No joke, and I had $40,000 plus in debt.
Wow.
So my debt to income and debt to asset ratio was so bad
It sounds like a
that,
testimonial, man, and one of those like info
yeah,
products.
I know it's crazy. It's so annoying because it's like, it sounds like it's just some made up internet marketing
Yeah.
type of thing, but like it's not. That's actually like real. So, but I have no debt. Both my wife and I have no debt at all. We have very nice growing assets. So, but yeah, it's more of just security. That's really why I do it, because I just want to feel secure. Because back when I was younger, because I grew up with a single mom, and she was always like stressed out about paying bills, like all the time, super stressed. And obviously, like I'd get some of that flack because that's what happens. Like,
Yeah.
why didn't you clean the dishes? And it's really not because I didn't clean the dishes, it's because she can't pay her bills. So, but that was one thing back then. I was like, man, I never want to have to worry about paying bills ever in my life. And so that was one thing. And I still use that principle from back then, because that's really what I want. I don't want to have to think about paying bills. I mean, it's a very simple principle, but I haven't had to think about that for a long time. But
It's
yeah.
very cool. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cool, man. I think a couple more questions so we can wrap it
Sure.
up. Oh, you sell a course, right? Or is it multiple or just one?
Just one course right now.
Okay. I'm curious, does that lead into your services? So do people buy the course then later is like, screw this, like, please do it for me?
Yes. So within GotchSEO Academy, so I drip feed the content, so it's split up in 4 modules. So they get the content, basically they get all the content within about 45 days. And at the end of, once they finish, there's a approved vendors section. And those approved vendors are, of course, going to be us. So, and then we offer them a little discount code at the end of the academy if they want to outsource some of the things that we taught. And so, and they don't have to. Obviously, they're still getting massive value. They can still take what we taught them and go out and use it themselves and get results. But, if you're trying to get more efficient, our services definitely help with that. So,
Makes sense. I like how it all ties together. That's really good.
yeah, that's one thing I really thought a lot about. So, and even if a company that's interested in SEO joins the academy and they see, wow, man, this is way too much work to do, then there's a good chance that they may want to just hire us. I mean, who else would they hire in that
100%,
scenario?
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Cool, man.
yeah.
Okay, final question then. We'll wrap it up finally.
Sure.
If you could go back and speak to yourself back in 2011 when you're just starting out with SEO, what advice would you like to give yourself? Like, one
man.
piece.
That's a tough one. Wow. It's hard because, I'm probably where I am because of mistakes and decisions
Absolutely,
I've made.
yeah.
So, I'd probably just focus on telling myself not to keep myself inside my business. And so really start figuring out ways to not be working in my business, to be working on my business would be probably the main focus. So, teaching myself how to create systems for my business and teaching myself how to create, policies and procedures so that I don't have to be so involved in the business and I can have more time to actually enjoy this life. So,
Love it. Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
brilliant advice. It's so easy for us, right? Just get caught up just doing everything ourselves.
Oh, man. Yeah. And it even happens to me, and I'm really obsessive. Like, I'll catch myself. I'll be doing something like, man, I really shouldn't be doing this. What am I doing right now?
I do the exact same thing.
Yeah. And then I'll go and create an SOP like immediately. So it happens all the time, and it's just the nature. You just get in the weeds and you got to pull yourself out sometimes. So.
Absolutely. Great answer. All right, man. Thank you for your time. Where can people find you if they want to check out these monster blog posts and all this content you got on your services?
They can just go to GotchSEO.com or search GotchSEO, or if you're searching about SEO stuff, you'll probably find my site anyway. So,
Very cool.
but yeah, so GotchSEO.com, and then on Facebook too, GotchSEO. So.
Awesome, man. Again, yeah, thank you again for coming on and spending like an
great.
hour with me. It's very cool. It's awesome to get to speak to people and like break down people's businesses. Right, interesting. All right, man.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a unique.
100%, yeah. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed this episode. There's a whole lot of nuggets in here, so take some notes, and I'll see you guys in next week's episode.